And in this piece, you have a couple of details in terms of obviously, like, why the relationship fell apart, or sort of where the front office and management and coaching didn't see eye to eye in this case. So can you walk us through a couple of the examples of, what did the front office want more of that ultimately led them to severing this relationship?
Yeah, I think the overarching theme for sure, and I mean, Masai kind of kept hitting on it over and over again, was there just a sense of malaise, a lack of spirit, a lack of energy, excitement, enthusiasm, whatever it might be. And, so you're okay, well, how does that manifest itself? And why is it, why does the lack of it seem to be such an issue here? And, a couple of different things did come up. And, one thing, as everyone's touched on, is just the way he managed his, the younger players on the roster in terms of a steady diet of playing time, not just this year, but last year. And I think that kind of, I think that really rankled management. I think it set the team back a little bit. And, in Nick's defense, I mean, he's trying to squeeze out as many wins as he can. So he's going to play his best 6 or 7 guys, and, everyone else can figure it out. But, I think that it does create a problem. I think there was also kind of a morale problem on the team. Like, when you're, got half of your roster who just barely plays, or when they do or they don't play, it's kind of a mystery to everybody. I think over time there's a bit of a corrosive effect there. And yes, we certainly all are, examples of players coming into the lineup and not having any insight as to why, and then not being in the lineup and not necessarily having very much insight into why. I think that's one thing. I think, the assistant coach stuff is, that's not why Nick gets fired, but I think it does create kind of an atmosphere where, is everyone on the same page? Is the coach really managing his staff as well as need be? Is there a lot of trust between the staff? And I mean, these staffs are huge now, right? Like,
Right.
I think there's 9 assistants and there's 4 other video coaches / development coaches. Like, you're basically got 13 people aside from medical, who are in some way, shape, or form hands-on with players. And if, so by definition, the head coach is probably a little more hands-off. And if he's not believing, trusting, empowering, or perceived to be doing all those things, then, then you're going to run into problems. And, you would hear it occasionally through the season. I know, talking to a couple of assistant coaches on other teams, it's a very small universe out there, and everyone seems to know somebody. And you would kind of get that feedback where it's like, the vibes were not good, so to speak. It wasn't a really cohesive group, I think was the word I used. And again, I would point out that that's not incredibly unusual. You know what I mean? Like, it's not unusual for a head coach to be sometimes get paranoid of some of the assistants. That's why a lot of times, some assistants, and it's been here in Toronto now for a couple of head coaches where, assistant coaches aren't allowed to talk to the media, because they just don't want messages being mixed. And, if one assistant coach is talking, then the other assistant coach wishes he could have his profile being raised, that kind of stuff. But I think, again, when you're struggling, not meeting expectations, these things get exacerbated. And I think, those are kind of, and then I think the third thing was, and it kind of falls under the heading of accountability. And are you really, holding players to a certain standard on a consistent basis, regardless of where they stand on your roster? And I think, and I think that was something that I feel like management felt was lacking a little bit. Like with the younger players, it wasn't just enough to kind of, you just can't say, you got to be really specific and structured in terms of how you're bringing them along and rewarding or not rewarding them with playing time. That didn't always happen. And then I think, in a larger sense, you've got a team, selfishness keeps getting referenced and whatever else, complacency. I mean, at some point the head coach has to be, a person who can kind of sniff that out, root it out, and stamp it out. And I don't think that was necessarily happening at a level that management was happy with. I mean, obviously, if they were, maybe Nick would still be working. And and I think it. I'm just kind of surmising here, but I do have examples of where Masai would have to, speak to the team, address the team at different junctures, talking to different players about that. And, on one level, I think it's good, to have a management figure, an executive figure who really carries a ton of weight, like a Pat Riley type thing. Not to say Masai and Pat Riley are in the same breath, but also it puts the management in a difficult situation where if you're doing it, more than on the rarest occasions, are you undermining the coaches because the coach doesn't have the, the proper or the means to be doing on his own. And I think that was kind of one of the things that was kind of surfaced as they went through this process, not just in the last week or so, but over the course of the season.